Tucked along rolling hillsides in the American Midwest sprawled the Brookfield Mews, an upscale suburban development known for its manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, and picturesque duck pond near the entrance. Its streets bore quaint names: Misty Lane, Robin Crest, Willow Ridge, and families flocked there for the sense of order and peace. An ironclad homeowners association, HOA, oversaw the property's appearance, ensuring uniform flower beds and color palettes. On the surface, Brookfield Mews glowed with neighborly smiles and gentle afternoons. Children rode bikes along sidewalks, seniors walked dogs on short leashes, and couples tended flower beds. Yet beneath the calm lay an undercurrent of tension, courtesy of the HOA's exacting demands, and, in particular, one board member who pushed those demands to extremes. That woman, Ophelia Morani, though most privately called her Karen, was in her mid-50s, possessed a rigid posture, impeccably styled hair, and a perpetually disapproving scowl. She carried clipboards on patrol, snapping photos of any yard that might sport an unapproved gnome or wind chime. She had earned a reputation for picking fights over minor infractions, convinced that she alone maintained Brookfield Mews standards. Meanwhile, a local therapy organization, Healing Hooves, had begun hosting monthly visits to the development, bringing miniature horses or therapy ponies for children with special needs. The gentle animals provided calm, uplifting interactions. Many Brookfield families cherished these visits. Parents praised the ponies for coaxing smiles and fostering emotional growth in children with anxiety, autism, or other challenges. But Karen, who placed property aesthetics and strict rules above all else, loathed the idea of farm animals stepping onto her pristine sidewalks. As a new therapy session approached, Karen's simmering discontent would soon explode, threatening to sabotage a beloved program. Yet the community's response would ultimately transform the tension into a victory for compassion. Since early spring, Healing Hooves had sent a small trailer of mini horses to Brookfield Mews once a month. They parked near the clubhouse lawn, so children, some local, some from nearby neighborhoods, could interact under supervision. The petite horses, barely waist-high on an adult, sported calm temperaments. A staff of volunteers guided each pony around, letting kids feed them carrots or brush their soft coats. For many children with special needs, the gentle ponies inspired confidence. Alicia West, an 8-year-old with severe anxiety, blossomed under the patient nuzzling of a pony named Daisy. Marcus Ng, a 10-year-old on the autism spectrum, learned to guide a pony on short walks, building focus and self-esteem. Parents marveled at how quietly these animals eased tension in their kids. At the same time, neighbors strolling by often paused to watch. Some took pictures, others praised how sweet the animals were. A few seniors reminisced about farm days. Even the local school counselor occasionally recommended families attend the therapy sessions for additional emotional support. The positivity was contagious. However, Karen found the entire spectacle distasteful. She labeled it rural chaos, intruding on a refined suburb. She believed large animals, even if miniature, didn't belong near meticulously groomed lawns or polished sidewalks. She complained to the HOA that barnyard creatures soiled property, though in truth, the ponies wore special catch harnesses to avoid mess. The rest of the board, mostly supportive of therapy animals, voted to let Healing Hooves continue visiting. Karen seethed, plotting ways to drive them out. Karen tried complaining about noise and smell. She claimed the ponies caused an odor problem, though not a single neighbor corroborated that. She insisted their small hooves might scuff the pavement, though the ponies weighed far less than typical large horses. The board found no valid code violation. Desperate, Karen demanded the board impose a special usage fee on Healing Hooves for commercial operation, but the rest of the members reminded her that it was a free therapy service, not a business. Frustrated, Karen took her grievances to her usual circle of busybodies, but few joined her crusade. Even a more conservative residents felt the therapy program was beneficial, adding to Brookfield's sense of community. Some told Karen bluntly that the ponies were adorable, bringing happiness to children in need. Why wage war against such a kind cause? That only inflamed Karen's resolve. She believed she alone saw the bigger picture. If the HOA allowed therapy ponies, next might come goats or an entire petting zoo. She saw an unstoppable downslide from refined suburb to farmland. So she scoured the HOA bylaws for any regulation to ban large animals. The nearest mention was that livestock was disallowed as permanent pets in dwellings, but these visits were short, supervised events. The rest of the board stood behind the program. Karen realized official channels wouldn't yield results. She began considering more direct sabotage, something that would spook or disrupt the ponies enough that Healing Hooves might decide it wasn't worth returning. A chance conversation about Independence Day fireworks sparked an idea in Karen's mind. One neighbor mentioned how some dogs cowered at loud booms. That morning, Karen recalled hearing how horses spooked easily at sudden noises. If a single firework frightened the ponies, maybe they'd panic. Could that force Healing Hooves to leave? The idea blossomed into a plan. During the next therapy session, scheduled on a Sunday afternoon, she'd set off a series of fireworks near the clubhouse lawn. The ruckus might cause the ponies to bolt or become too stressed for future visits. The trainers, seeing how unsettled the animals got, might decide to skip Brookfield Mews next time. It would appear an unfortunate incident, not obviously sabotage. She could pretend she was testing leftover fireworks. Perfect. She recognized the risk. Fireworks in a suburban area could lead to noise complaints or HOA fines, ironically. But she had enough clout on the board to spin it as a simple holiday leftover. And if it rid them of the ponies once and for all, it'd be worth it, she thought. In the days leading up to Sunday, Karen stocked up on medium-loud fireworks. She stashed them in her garage, checking weather forecasts for dryness to ensure the fuse lighting was safe. A sinister excitement glowed in her mind. For her, the end justified the means. An upscale suburban community shouldn't host therapy ponies, in her view. The next session dawned bright and mild. Healing Hooves arrived around noon with two adorable miniature horses, Smokey and Belle, both used to children's gentle touches. Families gathered by the clubhouse lawn. Volunteers set up a small pen, an activity table with grooming brushes, and a corner with chairs for parents. The energy was calm, yet joyful. Some kids overcame anxieties to approach the ponies, petting their soft muzzles. Among the watchers was Jenny Marquez, a mother whose 6-year-old had cerebral palsy. She beamed as her daughter giggled at Belle's twitching ears. Another father, Ben Thompson, guided his shy son to feed Smokey a carrot. Around them, the cluster of neighbors observed quietly, charmed by the sweet interactions. Karen, hidden behind a tall hedge across the street, clutched a lighter and a small box of fireworks. She watched the scene, lips pressed tight. She noted the timing, children in close proximity to the ponies. Perfect, she thought. The animals would likely spook more if the kids were around. By causing a chaotic scene, the group might end early. At around 12:45 p.m., she placed the first set of fireworks on the curb. They were whistling rockets, known for high-pitched screeches. She lit the fuse, stepping back. A second later, the rocket soared with a piercing shriek, followed by a sharp pop. The sound echoed across the lawn. The first rocket's whistle shattered the tranquil atmosphere. Smokey jerked, ears flat, eyes wild, while Belle snorted and pranced nervously. Some kids squealed in alarm. The staff tried to calm the ponies, cooing gentle reassurances. Before they fully recovered, Karen ignited the second rocket. Another shriek-loud whistle soared overhead, culminating in a bright pop. The ponies spooked further, Belle half-rearing, Smokey stumbling sideways, jostling the pen. One child stumbled backward, crying as a volunteer grabbed him to safety. Parents scrambled to corral frightened kids. The therapy staff quickly decided to lead the ponies behind the clubhouse, away from the noise. Meanwhile, another caretaker ran toward the origin of the fireworks, seeing only smoke dissipating near the curb. Karen crouched behind the hedge, lit a third rocket. It screeched upward, culminating in a boom. More chaos. Finally, The caretaker yelled for the culprit to stop. Karen, satisfied with the panic, stepped out, feigning surprise. "Oh, I had leftover holiday fireworks I wanted to test. Didn't realize you all were doing something," she said with false innocence. The caretaker glared, demanding she cease. Karen shrugged, stowing the rest. Sure. But maybe pick a quieter day for your horses," she added with a smirk. The damage was done. The ponies were deeply agitated, needing immediate sedation. Children were frightened, session canceled. Families departed with teary kids. Healing Hove's staff were furious, though uncertain how to proceed. If they returned next month, would more fireworks greet them? The question hung in the air. That evening, social media groups lit up with accounts of the sabotage therapy session. Parents railed about random fireworks set off dangerously close to skittish animals. Some openly accused Karen, suspecting her strong dislike for the ponies. A few neighbors argued that fireworks on a Sunday afternoon in broad daylight seemed obviously targeted, not just leftover holiday fun. One mother posted, "My autistic son was just starting to trust Smokey. Now he's traumatized. We saw Ms. Karen with the fireworks." She claimed ignorance, but it felt deliberate. Reactions poured in, condemning such reckless cruelty. The following morning, the HOA board's email was flooded with complaints demanding they censure Karen. Board President Marvin Carter tried to remain impartial, but recognized the seriousness. If Karen indeed used fireworks maliciously, it was a gross violation of community harmony. He scheduled an emergency board discussion. Karen, hearing the uproar, retorted that she had every right to set off leftover fireworks on her private property. She insisted she didn't realize the ponies were there. Yet the fact that she was near the clubhouse, not her own driveway, was suspicious. Many neighbors doubted her story. Meanwhile, Healing Hove staff considered skipping Brookfield Mews next month to protect the animals. The therapy visits risked too much stress if sabotage recurred. Distressed families pleaded with the HOA. "We need a safe environment for these therapy ponies. The children rely on them. Is there any way to guarantee no more fireworks or sabotage?" The board recognized they couldn't outright ban fireworks year-round, as many use them on holidays. Also, Karen was unstoppable if she wanted to randomly set them off. One father, Amir Shah, suggested building some protective structure. If the ponies had an enclosure that muffled noise, maybe they wouldn't panic at sudden booms. Others liked the idea, some kind of sound dampening stall near the clubhouse. But that would require design, funding, and approval to erect a structure on common grounds. The more they discussed it, the more it seemed feasible. A small, well-ventilated barn-like enclosure or pen with noise-absorbing panels might shield the ponies from fireworks or other sudden loud sounds. The therapy could continue inside, or children could meet the ponies in a calmer space. This wouldn't end random fireworks, but drastically reduce the risk of spooking. Board President Marvin Carter felt the plan was innovative. If the HOA authorized a quiet enclosure specifically for therapy animals, it might deter further sabotage. The question was how to pay for it and get it built quickly. The community might need a special fundraiser. Within days, a small therapy pony task force formed. Volunteers included parents of special needs children, a couple of local architects, and a retired veterinarian who understood equine needs. They brainstormed a modest, quiet barn design. For walls with acoustic insulation, a slightly open ceiling for ventilation, thick rubber mats on the floor to reduce hoof noise, and a double-door entry to prevent echoes. The structure size wouldn't be massive, just enough for 2 or 3 mini horses plus a few kids. They also considered optional overhead fans for ventilation and large windows so children inside wouldn't feel caged. A covered walkway leading from the trailer to the enclosure would ensure the ponies were shielded the moment they arrived. As for funding, they proposed a multi-pronged approach: a neighborhood donation drive, a possible local grant for special needs programs, and maybe partial HOA budget allocation. When the preliminary design was posted on the neighborhood forum, the response was overwhelmingly positive. People outraged by Karen's fireworks sabotage wanted to show solidarity. Donations poured in from families, some giving $20, others $200, excited to provide stable therapy for children. Local businesses offered materials at discounted rates. A philanthropic group specialized in autism support pitched in a sizable grant. Karen watched in dismay as neighbors embraced the project. If she'd hoped to kill off the pony visits, she'd triggered an even bigger, more permanent solution. The unstoppable momentum humiliated her. Seeing the wave of support, Karen tried sowing seeds of doubt. A permanent enclosure will ruin our scenic clubhouse lawn. We can't have a stable in the middle of a suburban development. She posted on the HOA message board that this structure might degrade property values, attract flies, and smell. The project team swiftly countered. Miniature horses produce minimal waste, and the barn design had easy cleaning features. Karen demanded an HOA vote on the enclosure's location. She also insisted it might block the walking path. The architects revised the site plan slightly, placing the enclosure behind some hedges near the clubhouse. They left the walkway open. They promised to match the enclosure's exterior to the clubhouse style, ensuring it blended aesthetically. At the next HOA board meeting, Karen ranted about the eyesore barn, but the majority was enthralled with the project. They recognized the intangible benefit for special needs children. They voted 4-1 to proceed with finalizing plans, ignoring Karen's protests. One board member quipped, "If we can have a giant barbecue pavilion for block parties, we can have a small, sound-dampening barn for therapy ponies." Karen fumed, her sabotage overshadowed by this bigger solution. Furious, she considered a final sabotage attempt. But the community's vigilance increased, ensuring any suspicious action near the enclosure site would be noted. As autumn leaves began to fall, the quiet enclosure project broke ground behind the clubhouse. Volunteers cleared the space, a local construction firm offered discounted labor, and families took turns serving snacks to the workers. A few children drew pictures of ponies on the boards that would become the enclosure's walls. The excited chatter about Pony Barn Day overshadowed any lingering negativity. Karen hovered around the site, scowling at times, complaining about dust or noise from construction. But no one paid her mind. The board had authorized it, the funds were donated, and the majority of neighbors cheered on the build. Karen's attempts to hamper it through petty code citations failed. The plan was thoroughly checked for compliance. Within a month, the structure took shape. For sturdy walls with thick insulation, a slight slope to the roof for drainage, a large entry door wide enough for miniature horses, and a side exit for easy cleanup. The interior was lined with soft, easy-to-wash panels. Windows near the top allowed daylight, but not direct sight lines for spook triggers outside. The architect installed acoustic baffles to muffle external bangs or booms. Seeing the enclosure near completion, many families grew emotional, recalling the day the ponies were terrorized by fireworks. Now, they'd have safe harbor. The question, would Healing Hooves trust the location enough to resume visits? The staff had been hesitant after the spooking incident. While construction progressed, the Therapy Pony Task Force remained in talks with Helen Martinez, the director of Healing Hooves. Helen was initially shaken by the sabotage, worried about repeating the fiasco. She needed assurances that the environment was now safe. The group explained the enclosure's noise-dampening design, the renewed HOA support, and how neighbors pledged vigilance to prevent more stunts. Helen cautiously agreed to a test session once the enclosure was finished. She'd bring 2 ponies, Daisy and Belle, both calm but known to spook if sudden loud noises erupted. If they handled potential noise well inside the structure, Healing Hooves might fully restore monthly sessions. News of this trial run excited families. Parents of special needs kids prayed it would succeed. Meanwhile, an unspoken tension. What if Karen unleashed fireworks again or found a new sabotage method? The watchers coordinated a plan. Some would discreetly patrol the perimeter with phones, ready to record or call security if needed. They hoped it wouldn't come to that. Karen observed from her vantage point. She felt overshadowed, but realized her sabotage had ironically triggered a more permanent solution. She bristled at the idea of monthly pony visits continuing, perhaps even more robustly. Yet her attempts to hamper the project had all failed. A crisp Saturday morning arrived. The newly built enclosure stood ready, fresh paint glistening. A small banner reading, "Welcome, Healing Hooves," hung across the entrance. Volunteers laid down straw mats and set up grooming stands. Parents and kids gathered, excitement palpable. The plan was for the ponies to remain inside the enclosure for half the session, ensuring minimal exposure to external noise. Then, if calm, they might venture onto the lawn for a short meet and greet. Helen Martinez drove up with the trailer, carefully unloading Daisy and Belle. The ponies' ears twitched warily. Some distant leaf blowers hummed, but no sudden bangs. Helen led them into the enclosure. The acoustics inside felt hushed, even though mild suburban noise filtered in from the open door. The ponies sniffed around, exploring but remaining calm. Children lined up in small groups. Volunteers guided them to pet or brush the ponies, explaining that any meltdown or spook would be managed safely. The new walls, thick and insulated, muffled even overhead airplane noise. Outside, watchers scanned for signs of Karen or fireworks. But there was no sign of trouble. The ponies appeared relaxed. As the hours passed, staff coaxed them onto the enclosed lawn area behind the building. The children giggled, feeding carrots. Daisy and Belle trotted gently without fear. By midday, the session concluded successfully. Helen and staff were thrilled. The enclosure had proven its worth. Parents cheered, relieved that the sabotage fiasco was behind them. Emma Harding, a volunteer, said tearfully, "We were so worried. Now it's safe for them." Karen hovered at a distance during the trial session. She had half a mind to attempt more fireworks, but the watchers and extra security dissuaded her. She realized any suspicious move might lead to immediate confrontation or even criminal charges. So she stayed put, stewing as the session unfolded smoothly. The new enclosure's success sealed the therapy pony's future in Brookfield Mews. In the following days, the board lauded the event's outcome. President Marvin Carter posted a public note praising the enclosure, celebrating the remarkable dedication to inclusive therapy. Families bombarded the community forum with happy pictures of children hugging the ponies. The entire fiasco with fireworks was overshadowed by the triumph of the quiet barn. Karen retreated from the spotlight, focusing on routine HOA tasks. She'd lost the fight to remove the ponies. Some neighbors started openly calling the enclosure Karen's barn, ironically crediting her sabotage for its existence. That moniker annoyed her, but she had no recourse. Quietly, a rumor spread that Karen felt humiliated. She rarely engaged publicly about therapy ponies now, avoiding mention of the fireworks. The rest of the HOA membership seemed content to let her slink into the background. With the new enclosure proving successful, Healing Hooves considered expanding from monthly to bi-monthly sessions, responding to the high demand among local families. Brookfield Mews, once just another suburban stop, became a prime site featuring a specialized quiet barn. Word reached other special needs groups who inquired about hosting additional equine therapy. Helen Martinez recognized a unique synergy. The enclosed barn kept external triggers minimal, letting children with severe anxiety or sensory challenges interact safely. She proposed an advanced therapy track, small group sessions for children who needed extra calm. The result? More children overcame fears, forging deeper connections with the ponies. Week after week, the visits continued without incident. No random fireworks, no sabotage. The local news ran a short piece titled "Community Rallies for Therapy Ponies. Innovative Barn Protects Animals from Noise." Karen, reading the article, found references to the initial sabotage described vaguely as fireworks scare. She felt slighted but powerless. Meanwhile, kids like Alicia West and Marcus Ng displayed marked improvements in confidence and social skills. Parents tearfully thanked the staff, praising Brookfield Mews for enabling such a positive environment. For them, the memory of the sabotage had transmuted into gratitude for the final solution. In late autumn, the community hosted a Harvest Hoedown fundraiser to ensure the enclosure's ongoing maintenance and support for Healing Hooves. Families decorated the barn area with hay bales, corn stalks, and pumpkin displays. A local country band volunteered to perform. The plan: a festive evening with line dancing, barbecue, pony grooming demonstrations, plus donation boxes for therapy supplies. Children in cowboy hats led the ponies around, carefully controlling the environment to avoid spooking them. The enclosure's acoustic walls kept the band's volume from disturbing the animals. A raffle sold tickets for homemade quilts, with proceeds going toward feed and veterinary bills. The turnout was huge. People from neighboring developments arrived. The community's sense of unity soared. In conversation, many mentioned the earlier sabotage, marveling at how it sparked such a beneficial outcome. If it weren't for that fireworks fiasco, we might never have built this wonderful barn, some said. Karen arrived near twilight, mainly out of curiosity. She noticed the joyous dancing and laughter. The ponies, unaffected by the mild music, calmly allowed kids to stroke their manes. Observing the synergy, Karen felt a pang of guilt once more. She quietly dropped a small donation into a box, ensuring no one saw. A fleeting attempt at reparation, perhaps. As winter neared, the therapy sessions continued seamlessly inside the barn, warmed by portable heaters. Healing hooves scaled up their visits, seeing more children each time. The ponies now recognized the barn, stepping in calmly. Kids overcame fears, forging real bonds with these gentle creatures. Some families from outside Brookfield Mews drove over, enthralled by the unique facility. The HOA, once indifferent, now boasted about the barn as a forward-thinking amenity for special needs therapy. President Marvin Carter told local reporters, "We're proud to support inclusive programs. The barn fosters healing for children." Karen, ironically, was overshadowed in interviews, seldom acknowledged. Neighbors who had once found the ponies quaint or unnecessary now embraced them as part of Brookfield Mews' identity. A subtle sense of pride spread. Not every suburb invests in such accommodations. The fiasco turned into an uplifting story about turning adversity into a progressive solution. Karen observed from the sidelines, her old illusions about preserving a perfect suburb undone by the positive transformation. She occasionally insisted the barn was ugly, but faced a wave of counterarguments praising its design. Realizing she was outnumbered, she let rest. Early in the new year, a National Equine Therapy Association caught wind of Brookfield Mews' quiet enclosure. They sent a small delegation to tour the facility, studying how it insulated noise from miniature horses. They published an article praising the synergy between a suburban HOA and a therapy group, heralding it as a model for inclusive communities. The local city council recognized the effort, awarding Brookfield Mews a Neighborhood Innovation Certificate. The mayor briefly visited, snapping pictures with the ponies and children. The certificate hung in the clubhouse lobby, ironically near an old bulletin board that once housed Karen's many rule notices. Amid all this acclaim, Emma Harding, one of the volunteer staff, reflected on how the sabotage had ironically propelled them into the spotlight. If not for that fireworks stunt, we might still be meeting out on the open lawn, risking spooks from random noises. Now we have a secure, supportive barn. It's a blessing in disguise, she told a coworker. Indeed, many concluded that Karen's malicious act inadvertently spurred a positive outcome. The rest of the community hailed it as a testament to resilience, overshadowing her negativity with creative solutions. At a special HOA board gathering, a year after the fireworks incident, the members convened to finalize the barn's official status in the community blueprint. The updated plan recognized the structure as a permanent fixture for therapy events. Under Agenda, Therapy Barn, the board applauded the success. Karen sat stonily silent through the discussion. But at the end, President Marvin Carter invited final comments. The other board members offered praise for how the barn functioned, how sabotage had turned into renewal. Then, in a surprising move, Karen cleared her throat. "I still have concerns about future expansions," she said stiffly. "But I see that the barn is beneficial for many. And I regret any confusion caused by fireworks that day." I only intended a personal fireworks test, not to endanger the animals. It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest Karen had come to admitting wrongdoing. A hush fell. The board nodded politely, some rolling their eyes privately. Nonetheless, the president accepted her statement, grateful for even a minor admission. That small concession signaled that the sabotage era was over. The board unanimously voted to incorporate the barn into the community amenities, ensuring indefinite therapy visits. Applause followed. Karen mustered a tight-lipped smile, ironically overshadowed by the loud cheers of families in attendance. As time passed, the monthly sessions in the barn became a cherished routine. Children overcame personal milestones with the ponies, forging trust and emotional stability. Some overcame speech anxieties, practicing reading aloud to the animals. Others with tactile defensiveness learned to gently groom the ponies, building motor skills. The staff integrated creative therapies, like painting the ponies with washable, non-toxic paints for sensory exploration, or leading mindfulness activities within the barn's quiet. Parents marveled at their kids' growth. Alicia West, once terrified of animals, began volunteering to help brush the ponies. Marcus Ng discovered a passion for equine care. The synergy with the barn's calm environment made progress feasible. No further sabotage attempts arose. The entire community recognized how swiftly neighbors would respond to any sign of wrongdoing. Karen's fireworks fiasco lingered only in memory, an infamous cautionary tale. Even new residents soon learned about the legend of how one malicious act spurred the creation of the therapy barn. To Karen's frustration, the place had become a symbol of the community's compassion. But as time wore on, even Karen found less reason to lash out. The unstoppable positivity left her negativity with no traction. One damp spring evening, Karen was walking her small terrier near the clubhouse, pausing to let the dog sniff some shrubs. She noticed the barn door slightly ajar, light from inside illuminating the gloom. Intrigued, she peeked in. Usually, sessions ended by late afternoon, but tonight a volunteer caretaker, Darnell, was doing an after-hours check on the ponies. Karen entered cautiously, noticing Belle and Smokey munching hay in a small stall. The barn's interior smelled faintly of fresh straw, not unpleasant. Darnell spotted her, offered a polite nod. "Evening, Ms. Morani. Everything all right?" Awkwardly, Karen responded, "Just walking my dog." Didn't realize the barn was open. She heard Belle's soft snort, glimpsed the pony's calm, dark eyes. For a moment, Karen felt a tug of curiosity. The pony's presence was oddly soothing. She half wanted to approach, but pride kept her distant. Darnell, reading her expression, gently said, "You can pet her if you like. She's friendly." Karen shook her head. "No, that's fine," she mumbled. She turned, hurried out. Yet a part of her felt a pang. The same animals she once tried to scare away now existed peacefully, evoking an unexpected warmth. In a gesture of gratitude to the architectural firm that helped design the barn, the church staff from a local congregation, and the therapy volunteers who'd supported funding, the HOA organized a small plaque unveiling. Engraved on the plaque were words like Brookfield Mews Quiet Barn, a testament to the power of community and compassion. Neighbors gathered one Sunday afternoon to watch the unveiling. The plaque was installed near the barn's main door, a reminder of the structure's origin story. Some retold the comedic angle, how fireworks sabotage triggered it all. Emma Harding, one of the main therapy volunteers, read a short dedication, praising the generosity that overcame adversity. Karen lingered in the crowd, feeling overshadowed. Yet part of her recognized the unstoppable positivity. She realized that every time someone read the plaque, they'd be reminded that goodwill triumphed over sabotage. Perhaps she was forced to accept that her attempt at controlling the narrative had failed utterly. When the little ceremony ended, children played around the barn, patting ponies. The synergy of acceptance filled the air. Karen quietly left, uncertain of her place in a neighborhood that had rallied so strongly for farm animals. Months rolled by. The therapy barn became a hallmark of Brookfield Mews, a unique selling point for prospective buyers. Real estate listings even highlighted on-site therapy barn for special needs children. Ironically, property values nudged upward, the antithesis of Karen's initial fears. The synergy between suburban living and quiet equine therapy was lauded in local lifestyle magazines. One day, a group of neighbors approached Karen, suggesting they host a We Heart Our Ponies spring festival, merging the caretaker concept with a block party. Surprised they even invited her, Karen initially bristled. She almost refused, yet a new seed of thought told her it was time to move past old grudges. She politely said she'd consider it, though gave no promise. Reflecting privately, she realized how the Karen label had stuck to her. Many saw her as the villain. She resented that stigma, but recognized she'd earned it through sabotage. Did she truly want to remain an outcast? Or could she quietly accept the new normal? She decided to attend the festival, albeit not as a central figure, but to show some measure of contrition. On a sunny Saturday in May, the We Heart Our Ponies festival unfolded near the barn. Tables lined the path selling homemade crafts, local art, and baked goods. A small stage showcased children singing or reciting poetry about kindness. The therapy ponies ambled about, wearing festive ribbons in their manes. Families reveled in the fun, proud of how far the community had come since that disastrous fireworks day. Karen arrived inconspicuously. She carried a small dish of homemade pastries for the potluck table, a subtle attempt to contribute. Observing the laughter, she felt pangs of regret, but also relief that the fiasco had turned out so well for everyone else. She avoided direct mention of her sabotage, but she greeted a few neighbors politely. During the mini-ceremony, parents of special needs kids thanked the entire neighborhood for supporting the therapy barn. They singled out the board's leadership, though not Karen specifically. The crowd applauded thunderously, cheering the unstoppable wave of compassion. As the ceremony ended, Karen quietly left her pastries behind and slipped away. She recognized that while the fiasco had overshadowed her once, the best she could do now was let the positivity stand unopposed. In the final months of that year, the barn operated year-round. The ponies visited even on cold days, thanks to small heaters. The children's improvement soared, with some forming strong bonds with the animals. Brookfield Mews gained a reputation as a forward-thinking, inclusive suburb. Healing Hooves expanded their staff, citing how the barn served as a model for other neighborhoods, wanting to host therapy animals without fear of noise spooks. Volunteers from Brookfield Mews continued to help maintain the barn, ensuring it stayed pristine. Some older residents found renewed purpose in caring for the mini horses. Karen lived out her days in the background, no longer the prime mover of the HOA. She occasionally cast a sideways glance at the barn, but her fireworks fiasco had reseeded into comedic local lore. The entire fiasco ironically led to a shining example of resilience. Families told new neighbors the story of how one big sabotage attempt led us to build an unstoppable therapy barn. The end was sweet. The community had triumphed over sabotage, forging stronger bonds. Children thrived. Ponies trotted calmly in a protective enclosure, and a once divided neighborhood found new unity. Though Karen never openly apologized, the permanent barn and flourishing therapy sessions stood as a defiant testament that cruelty could be transformed into compassion. The final outcome, a truly happy ending for Brookfield Mews and the beloved therapy ponies.